Guide me, Lord, through
The fun that we can have is just to make it an adventure with God every day. What do you want me to do? How can I do this with your spirit, not with mine?
when I go astray. Hold me in thy light.
Hi, friends. Thanks, everybody, for making it today. I kind of thought after last weekend, the big Jyotish and Devi thing, and then with the sun out, it might just be Navriti, Jamana, Lajana, and the video people and I. Got my hopes up. This is actually really nice. I feel so much peace in here this morning. Just tuning into the spirit of today, of Mother's Day, and this weekend. And what happened, Divine Mother just gave us the most beautiful weekend of the year. You know, I'm a farmer, so I've been waiting for sun for 6 months so that things would start growing again. And it's a good reminder that, you know, this creation that we live on this planet with, we call her Mother Nature. It's not an accident. She's our mother, and we're surrounded by her all the time. And I just wanted to point that out so that when we leave the temple and we get under the blue sky today and we feel the breeze blowing, if we're lucky enough to get by the water, whatever aspect of it is that we experience, because she'll try to touch us, that we say thank you, Ma, thank you, Mother. And we realize the source of all that goodness, of all those birds and bees and all that life that's all around us. On the altar you see the picture of Yogananda's mother over here, and there's a big version here. And for many of us on this path, Yogananda's mom really has come to represent an image of the Divine Mother. And many of you are familiar with the story from Autobiography where Master's mom died when he was very young, and he was very devastated. And it took him a couple years actually to make peace around that. This is an avatar. It took him a couple years to make peace with the idea that his mom had left him. And then at one point, Divine Mother came and told him, "It was always I who looked at you through those eyes." And that's an interesting thought, because it goes to something much deeper than even the form of his mother. It goes to that aspect of motherhood that is inherent in all life, that aspect of love. It's just that Divine Mother is that aspect of life. And she manifests through every mother and through every father who has those same qualities. It's that quality of God, of compassion and kindness, of nurturing, that we find in all animals. We find it in trees. We find it in everything. And it's so universal that we can sometimes forget that it's just right here all the time. So that's a good one for us to find the forms of the Divine Mother that manifest in our life. One of my favorite things to do when I get up here is to thank my mom. And then I immediately think of all the other moms that I have, because I've got probably like 20, who Divine Mother is constantly looking out for me. This confused little boy in this world. She's just constantly patting me along, and you know, my next mother will just show up and tell me exactly what I need to hear. It's always happening for all of us. So that's the Mother's Day part of the talk. It may be the most important part of the talk. This topic is a good one, though, to get to the topic. Martha and Mary, and Jyotish kind of introduced it to us last week. And this one is called today is Activity versus Inner Communion. And I find Swami often does this with these subject headers. He throws a little wrench in there. He sets it up like it's some kind of battle, activity versus inner communion. And then it makes us think about this. What the heck does that mean? And, you know, if we just tune into it even for a moment, we realize we should just swap that verse with an and. And yoga is about integration, integrating our life, integrating realities. And we just need to expand our external and our internal realities so that they become one. And so let's talk about it as activity and inner communion. You know, where would we be without Martha? I'm afraid nothing in this world would get done. It would be a pretty pitiful thing. But where would we be without Mary? Oh my God, it's an even scarier thought. if we didn't know how to be still and actually ask, what is it I'm supposed to do? Instead of just having Martha going on a tangent, running around trying to fix everything, losing her mind. Martha needs a little Mary to just say, no, it's okay. Let's ask first and act next. And I was thinking, as I was sitting here next to Lajana during the meditation, this reminder, 2 weeks ago, she leads Wednesday meditation at the farm. And I walked up to her, and it was a nice meditation for me. So I just said, thank you, Lajana, for meditation after it was over. And she said, isn't it just the best part of the day? I never had that thought before. I'm working at my meditation, but it's hard. But yeah, in that moment I felt it. It was true. It is the best, and especially when we are humble enough to ask God and Divine Mother to meditate for us, and know that it's not us doing it. An opportunity all of us have right now. Even you're in this role of facing the altar. I'm in this role of standing here and facing you. One thing we can all share is just that practicing to remember God, even in this moment. And one of the great teachings of India, probably the single greatest thing India can offer the world, is the understanding of the breath, of life force control through our own breath and prana. And it doesn't even matter where you're sitting or what you're doing, but we have the opportunity to breathe in, to hold our breath, and to let the exhale just come as it's ready. It's an amazing, amazing thing that when we learn how to do that and keep doing it, we become still, we change, we settle down, and things become clear, and the problems that are circling around in our minds, they have a way of just going right out on that next exhalation. They just flow right out of there. And what do we bring back in? We bring back in the peace. We bring back in the joy of fresh breath. And then we can take it even a step further. We inhale that breath, and we bring it right here to the spiritual eye. And we hold it there. And we let it vibrate a little bit. And we start to tune into this feeling, this flow of life, this in and this out, this up and this down. And we learn how to rest inside of it. Because as long as we're on one side of the breath, we're kind of missing the other side. We're like Martha without the Mary, or Mary without the Martha. We learn how to get inside of it and become still. And really it's from that place that we can actually start to operate in this world in the right way. We learn how to ask, God, what is your will for me this morning, this moment, this day? We learn how to listen for his answer and not just project all of our own desires on things. Because when our breath is going fast, when we're sped up, boy, it's hard to have a clear thought of anything. And we usually just fall back into old patterns and old ways of being. So right now, I'm going to try to keep breathing. You guys try to keep breathing. And then in that, we're going to find God in the space between. The other aspect of this talk and this idea of integrating Martha and Mary is that we are trying to learn how to act and be in this world in a way where we are not losing God's presence. So that's what the breath is. That's what we're doing in that practice. And we're trying to bring Mary's devotion into the aspects of our life that God has given us. And, let's tune into devotion for a second, just not as loving an abstract vision of God who's out there, but as a devotion to the things God has given us, the people. You think about a family and their devotion to their child, or an inspired scientist and his devotion to what he's researching and trying to discover. This aspect of being devoted and being calmly curious about something and exploring that reality, being devoted to it, where we're willing to ask the question and try to really listen and get the answer. One of the patron saints of the farm is an American agriculturalist named George Washington Carver. And he was born a slave, and he was a true American saint, and really revolutionized an understanding of nature and agriculture. If you ever have a chance to read about him, I highly recommend it. I keep hoping Hollywood is going to tune into this man and make the movie already. But I actually wrote a letter to the screenplay writer of Lincoln, which is one of my, maybe the all-time favorite movie, to see if he would write it. But he never wrote me back. But George Washington Carver's practice was that every day at 4 a.m, he would walk out to the forest glade that was by Tuskegee Institute, which he founded, with which he was the head agriculturalist with Booker T. Washington. Their mission was to help the former, now freed slaves of America to learn how to do basic things, because they had been slaves. So what did they do? They picked cotton. They did what their slave owners told them, and now they were free, and they needed to learn how to live life. There's a lot we have in common with this, actually, to learn how to live life. And his practice was to go out to that forest glade every morning and ask God in the nature, what is your plan for me today? And from that space, he would be in this divine flow all day. And he had disciples come from all over. For white disciples, black disciples, men, women, everyone could recognize God in him, because he was constantly looking for God. And he said nature is like an unlimited broadcasting system of God. If we would just turn the station to the right one, God is always talking to us through nature. So these are really our opportunities, is to have our own relationship with God. It doesn't have to be in the forest glade. It doesn't have to even be outside. It can be in our closet. That's one of my favorite places, is my closet. I love my closet. It's the best closet I know. But this idea of bringing devotion into things is so practical, actually, because we already are devoted to something. So now our task is to take the devotion we have to this and expand it. It's not like we have to rediscover anything, except we just have to expand what we already have been given. So all of us can ask God that question, find out what I believe in, what is mine, and expand our devotion for it. Give it to God and start seeing God more and more working within it. Start seeing God's consciousness speaking to us, talking to us through it. That's been my relationship to the farm. 11 years ago now, we're in our 11th season. I started a farm without ever having farmed anything, which was both my greatest strength and the most terrifying prospect of having to generate income and run a CSA and go to farmers markets. And was crazy enough to know that the only thing that I needed to know and not forget was to love nature. That nature would show me how to farm in a natural way if I just asked her. And so I spent some time on some farms and mostly had a neti-neti practice of watching how they did things and saying, no, not this, not that. Like, we don't need to have a tractor. We don't need those fertilizers. We can find natural ways to do these things. And it's been an amazing process you come to the farm now, and it's hard to imagine that there was just a field of thistle and there was nothing there, because nature has grown so much in these years. But I would say my number one practice was to go sit in different places on the farm and to just try to completely empty Zach and get Zach completely out of the way until I had some clarity of one step to take. I'm not saying I had a vision or saw everything. It was one step. And this is how God works with us too, is we want to figure it all out right now. I want to know what's going to happen this week right now. How is my money situation going to work out? How's this situation with this person going to figure out? God wants us to have faith. So he's not going to tell us everything at once. He's going to give us our step. And when we take it, and we take it with courage, we take it with calmness and joy, he gives us the next one. And then sometimes he'll go boom and blow it open, and then we can see a lot more at once. But only when we get out of the way. And so often people will ask me about starting their own garden, and I say, do you have your bench? And they'll say, huh? And I say, no good garden can exist without a bench, or at least a stump to sit on. I like stumps too. And so many people want to skip the bench. It's amazing to me. I've been doing consultations, and the last one I did, the person kept saying, oh no, I don't, the garden is for doing. I don't need to sit out here. And I thought, how will you ever know what to do if you don't sit still? See, they feed each other, the activity in the inner communion. And often we'll find that the more outwardly active we are, the more we can actually become still. And the less outwardly active we are, maybe the more tamasic or down-pulling we are, the harder it is to be still. So some good advice this time of year is, if you're not feeling that good, go outside, move around, and then everything will figure itself out so simply. It's very amazing how simple the solutions are. So I just mentioned these things so that we can all tune in for ourselves how to live this integrated life. And maybe one question we ask ourselves right now is, which side of the spectrum am I on? Am I going a little too Martha? Am I a little too active and I need to cultivate the Mary? Or am I a little too inwardly turned in on myself and it's not really working and I need to move my energy and get the Martha fire going? And that's only a question each one of us can ask, but we have to kind of see this spectrum always moving back and forth, and our opportunity to find our place right down the middle aisle of it. We can just shoot down the middle and strike that balance. One of the fundamental philosophies of the farm is called do-nothing farming. This came from our farming guru, Masanobu Fukuoka. And this has spun many a Western head's right off. The idea of doing nothing. And I can assure you, we don't do nothing. Oh my God, we do so many things. But when you tune into the essence of what that actually means, doing nothing, there's a way to do things without being the one doing them. And this is a huge test for us in the Western world, because we want to do everything. We want to accomplish everything, figure everything out. We want to be the ones. But at some point, we start to realize, in and of my own ego, I cannot be the solution. That I've got to do better than that. And so we start to realize, of myself, I really am nothing. And we start to empty that cup out and let whatever God puts back in be the something. So this idea of doing nothing, it's this idea of relinquishing our own doership and seeing God even in us. And when we have an inspiration come to us, is it my inspiration? Did I come up with that? I can tell you from experience, as soon as I think I did, boy, that inspiration gets swept off, and with the next title, with the next outflow, whatever you want to say, it's just gone. They spilled the beans. But if I can remember that it's God's, and I can keep it with God, and I wait for God to give me the window to act on it, everything will work out, and that inspiration will come true. So this is just this dynamic balance of life. I think we're all already walking this. We don't need to feel like it's anything outside of ourselves. Our job and the fun that we can have is just to make it an adventure with God every day. What do you want me to do? How can I do this with your spirit, not with mine? And how can I really do nothing? PN has a shirt that says the Do Nothing Club. And I notice that when she walks around the farm with the Do Nothing Club shirt on, it brings everyone joy, even as we all do things. I would like to end with that. Joy to you.